How do we start? Games are subjective. Reviews are biased. You might hate what I like, you might love what I like. This isn't a recommendation video. It's a video as much as it is for me as it is for you. So, if you don't see your favorite here, if you don't see Super Battlefield 64 at number 1, well, there are countless other gaming YouTubers who may better suit your tastes. But please, while you're here, stay a while and listen. Final Fantasy VI was such a tonal shift for the franchise, and that's immediately obvious from the introduction screen. The harrowing orchestral score, crackling lightning and fiery font that emerges through it. Final Fantasy VI demands your attention. Gone is the promise of a frolicking adventure. Instead, we're met with the foreboding allure of dread. And how apt that is for a game such as this, where the central plot revolves around the villain not only winning, but ascending to godhood. No, this isn't just another bad guy. This isn't just another exaggerated JRPG monster. This is a man powerful enough to ascend into the heavens, to be so unspeakably evil that he leaves the world in utter devastation just to become all. Kefka really is one of the most dreadful antagonists in any game, and it makes for one hell of a story. Featuring 14 possible party members and... Okay, let's stop this here. Final Fantasy VI is one of my favourite games because I played it during my first experience of depression. Yeah, fun, right? Those stormclouds in the intro scene, they sure were foreboding. It's strange how often I'd watch that storm roll in when I started the game, yet it felt appropriate. I was 20 years old at the time, that's 11 years ago. I'd left high school, and I'd not really found my place in the world. Life was dark, nothing was really enjoyable. Even my favourite hobby, gaming, was feeling unfulfilling. What's worse, I was starting to realise that the bad guys can and often do win. The world isn't perfect, nor is it a playground. My adult life was taking form and I didn't know how to navigate myself forwards. In many ways I grew attached to the main character of Final Fantasy VI, Terra Branford. As she explored the sprawling ruined world, so did I. I ventured away from family to forge my own relationships outside of the relatives and people I was stuck in school with. I questioned authority, I questioned the point of it all and what was worth holding on to. So in a time when games weren't even holding my attention, it was the story of Final Fantasy VI that kept me going. To find something to relate to and something that just helped during that time. It was a formative experience I can't ignore. Yeah, Final Fantasy VI has a killer gameplay and one of the most satisfying power-led power curves in any Final Fantasy game, and it has one of the most surprisingly open worlds for its era. But even as someone that usually appreciates gameplay over plot, it was the writing and overall vibe of Final Fantasy VI that got me through a really tough time. And to do that, Final Fantasy VI became one of my absolute favourite games. Dark Souls. Yeah, I'm a Souls guy.
You fuckers watching this sick shit. This is sickening.
In a time where games were becoming more and more mainstream and the Call of Duties and FIFAs were buckling down on their yearly installments, gaming was starting to feel stale. To my ADD-riddled brain, something about modern gaming just wasn't holding my attention. I needed a challenge. I needed something that made me work for my fun, like the games of yesterday. Along came Dark Souls, politely knocking on my door, gently inviting me to have a wee taste. To sample its spoils, to nourish on its teat. By now, it's well established that Dark Souls is a hard game, but I'd challenge that. Dark Souls isn't exactly hard, it's punishing. Where hard games may challenge you to hone your reflexes and memorize tricky sequences of attacks, Dark Souls is actually pretty chill. It's a slower paced game that instead asks you to think before you act. Stop, observe the situation, and go in with a level head. Dark Souls punishes you for being sloppy or for panicking. Slow and steady wins the race. It's a game about approaching every situation with a fresh perspective, keeping your guard up and slugging on. Dark Souls rewards persistence. With enough time, you'll make it. You'll beat the game. You don't need to be good at gaming to do it either. You just have to persist and keep moving forwards. Dark Souls taught me that I could achieve things I didn't think possible if I simply approached them slowly and carefully, then persisted through the challenges that inevitably tried to knock me down. Just like Final Fantasy VI, Dark Souls was a game I played during a very important time in my life. I'd just started university and was being met with entirely new challenges. I'd never studied this hard before. I didn't think I was cut out for it. I was meeting new people. I was scared of making friends. Dark Souls gave me the ability to persist through my doubts because I knew I could make it. If I just found that bonfire at the end, I'd make it. Even if that bonfire resembled a few beers after a particularly tricky essay. I think this was the first time I could say a game made me a better person. Outside of the get good nonsense, Dark Souls challenged me in a way that I hadn't been challenged before. It both helped shape my taste in games after playing it, and helped me shape how I approach life. As I look back at all I've achieved in the last 10 or so years, I can honestly attribute a lot of it to the persistence Dark Souls instilled within me.
3.
Zero Ranger. There's persistence, then there's the ability to develop mastery. These two skills go hand in hand. The shoot 'em up genre really hit me hard when I finally dove in. Sure, I'd heard of games like Ikaruga and played Gradius. I'd enjoyed the oddball shoot 'em up sequences in Mario Land, and Raptor practically raised me when I was young. In 2018 I ventured well and truly down the rabbit hole and discovered how much I enjoyed bullet hell shoot 'em ups. Where Dark Souls was more punishing and difficult, these games were actually hard, and I instantly fell in love. Zero Ranger to me is the perfect game. It's simple, it's fun, it's got a clear goal in mind. You put anyone in front of this game and they know what to do immediately. As you play longer, you discover the nuances of the game and how perfectly balanced every single design decision is. The different weapons, the way they interact with each bonus goal, or any of the incredible bosses. You might start to notice little Easter eggs in the background on repeated plays, or how the music synchronizes with the action on screen. What was initially a torrent of bullets and high-speed evasion becomes a delicate dance that you've rehearsed over time. The shmup genre, and by extension Zero Ranger, taught me that the satisfaction of mastery was unbeatable. To know something so well that it becomes second nature. Zero Ranger is a very good game. A very, very good game. But by now you've probably guessed that this video isn't about games, it's a diary. This video is why these games matter to me. While I was playing this game a lot, I started streaming my 1 credit clear attempts. Some of my friends would watch me on Twitch and cheer me on. My friend Heath was one of them. We met as roller derby referees, which feels like a lifetime ago. We didn't talk much outside of Twitter and a few Facebook comments here and there, but we went to the same high school, albeit years apart, and we both had a great love for gaming. Heath was one of the few people who actively took an interest in my Twitch streams when nobody else did. I don't think he particularly cared for Zero Ranger itself, but he was always so excited to come and watch me play. He loved the Salamander boss, excitedly yelling out "Axolotl! Axolotl!" every time I fought it. These were one of his favourite animals, of which he had a few as pets. Heath's no longer with us. He passed away recently, and despite our relative distance, I miss the guy a lot. Every now and then I'll play Zero Ranger and think of him. One day I'll stream a successful 1 credit clear. It'll be for my old pal Heath. I haven't yet mastered Zero Ranger, but I'm working on it. It's the least I can do for a great guy who was taken from us way too early. And every time I fight that salamander, you better believe I'm going to be yelling out Axolotl. Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. Isn't it odd that my favourite games are all tied to the worst moments in my life? I guess that speaks to my need to escape. Strange Journey. This was the hardest time in my life. I was seeing a lot of psychologists, counsellors, I was in and out of hospitals. There were times when I honestly wanted to end my life. Despite the waves of depression I seem prone to and the generalized anxiety disorder that I've carried for 31 years, it was never this bad. Events at the start of this year left me with a diagnosis of PTSD. My life felt like it was over. Never had I genuinely given thought to actual death. When life felt like I was in a never-ending maze and I could barely tell up from down, Strange Journey mirrored how my mind felt. I was navigating flashbacks and questioning a lot in my life. I was experiencing moments of disassociation where the physical world felt so distant. Strange Journey was dark. Strange Journey hated me. Strange Journey wanted to make me hurt more. In this demonic hellscape, I somehow found comfort. I somehow didn't care that the game was twisting and turning. It somehow matched my confusion in everyday life as I navigated a world that was crumbling around me. Strange Journey is the most oppressive game I've played. And to be clear, again, this is not a recommendation. Strange Journey is a game plenty of people will absolutely hate. Maybe had I approached it during a different chapter in my life, I'd hate it too, but for a game to slot so seamlessly into my struggling mental state and provide a surreal sense of escape made it a perfect tool for recovery. I'm not going to sit here and say that it saved my life or anything hyperbolic like that, but it definitely left a mark. I did try to play other games to keep my mind off the worst parts of my flashbacks during this time, but going back to them now, I hate them. They're too closely tied to the bad times. If I play Stardew Valley, my mental state starts to revert to that damaged state. And if I so much as hear music from Dragon Quest VIII, I feel those tendrils of those dark times tickling at the edges of my mind. Strange Journey is what I needed, punishing. In mastering this hellish labyrinth, I mastered my own mind. And to be clear, that was with the help of some amazing psychologists. Just to be safe. Number 1. I just don't have one. This list wasn't for you, this list was for me, and ending it like this instead of stressing myself over having to pick a concrete favourite game ever makes me feel a lot better. I find it hard to talk about the harder things in life, and this channel felt like a great outlet. I don't know if I'll continue making videos like this, or if I'll ever really go further into my mental health here or anywhere public. Games are incredibly important to me. They've helped me through so much. They've taught me more than I can communicate with words and visual gags alone. My next favourite game, my number 1 perhaps, well, I'm excited to find out what it is, but I'll approach that with caution. There'll be hard times in the future, alongside good times. It's a shame that all of my favourite games are tied to the bad times, but hey, I guess that's life.